During that time, the royal palace was splendidly decorated for the princess and number 39's wedding. Festivals, fun until late at night. After the work was done, at the signal of the wedding officiant, the Prime Minister and number 39's son cleverly sneaked out. This man led him to the wedding bed in the princess and number 39's room that had been prepared. He went in and lay down first. A moment later, the queen, accompanied by a maid, brought her new wife. She resisted according to the bride and number 39's procedure. The queen helped the princess take off her outer clothes, put her to bed as if by force, and after hugging and kissing her in blessing, she went out with everyone accompanying her. The last person to leave closes the door. As soon as the door was closed, the genie faithfully and accurately carried out the orders of those who had the lamps in their hands. Without giving the husband time to touch his wife, he lifted up the bed with the newlyweds to their amazement. Two people and number 39's fear brought it to Aladdin and number 39's room. Aladdin was impatient, not wanting to let the Prime Minister and number 39's son sleep in the same bed as the princess. He told the genie, "Put this new husband in a corner and come back here tomorrow morning." The genie immediately lifted the Prime Minister and number 39's son out of bed, brought him to the place where Aladdin pointed, and blew him a wind that soaked him from head to toe, making him unable to move any more. Even though he was infatuated with Princess Bedrouthoudor, Aladdin did not talk long when he was alone with her. With a very passionate attitude, he confided, "Dear Princess, Dawn and number 39's be afraid, it and number 39's safe for you here, and despite the strong love I feel for your beauty, I will never exceed the limits of my heart. Deep respect for her. If I am forced to this point, it is not to offend her but to prevent her unjust rival from taking her against her father and number 39's promise to accept me." The princess knew nothing about those things, and had never paid attention to what Aladdin said. The fear and amazement of this strange, unexpected adventure had left her in such a state that Aladdin could not get a word out of her mouth. He did not stop there, took off his outer clothes and lay down on the Prime Minister and number 39's son, turning his back to the princess after carefully placing a sword between the princess and him, indicating that he would be punished if he touched his reputation. Attending Princess. Aladdin was satisfied that he had taken away his rival and number 39's happiness on the wedding night, so he calmly slept well. Not so with the princess, she had never spent such a bad night in her life, and the Prime Minister and number 39's son, whose husband had just spent a night in the corner of the house, was much sadder. The next morning, Aladdin did not need to rub the lamp to summon the genie. God appeared at the appointed time, while he was wearing military clothes. "I am here. What do you command? Bring the Prime Minister and number 39's son from yesterday, put him in bed and return everything to the palace." Aladdin took back the sword. The genie went back to the Prime Minister and number 39's son, put his new husband next to the princess, then brought the bed back to the palace and placed it in the princess and number 39's room in the same place. But during this process, the couple did not see the genie, whose terrifying form could have made them die of fright. They also did not hear anything about the exchange between Aladdin and the genie, only realizing seeing the bed shake, being carried from one place to another, and that was terrifying enough. The genie put the wedding bed back in its place just as the king, wanting to know how his daughter spent her wedding night, entered the room to congratulate the princess. The Prime Minister and number 39's son, freezing all night and not being able to warm himself up enough, heard the door open and quickly stood up and ran to the closet where the clothes he took off last night were still hanging there. The king approached the princess and number 39's bed, kissed his daughter as was customary, and smiled and asked her how she felt last night. Raising his head and looking closely at the princess, he was surprised to see that she did not blush or show any other signs that satisfied his curiosity. She just looked at him very sadly, expressing a deep pain and resentment. He even said a few words to his daughter, but when she didn't and #39's answer, he thought it was because he was shy, so he withdrew. However, he could not help but suspect there was something unusual in that silence, so he immediately went to the Queen and number 39's room to tell the princess and number 39's attitude. "Your Majesty," the Queen said, "you should not be surprised at that. There is no new bride who does not have such an attitude when welcoming her royal father as she is supposed to. Let me go visit you. If the princess also has that attitude, then I am very wrong." After the Queen finished dressing, she went to the princess and number 39's room and saw that she still hadn't and #39's woken up. She approached the bed to greet and hug and kiss her child. But she was so surprised. Not only did she not answer, but her relatives clearly saw that her appearance had deteriorated, so she thought something was wrong. She asked, "Daughter, why did you respond to my kindness so negligently? Do you welcome your mother that way? Do you think I Don and number 39's know what will happen to you? I think you Don and number 39's mean that, so something unusual must have happened to you. Tell me the truth, Don and number 39's. Let worry bother me." Finally, Princess Badrul Baudour ended the silence with a sigh. "Wow! Revered mother?" she cried out. "Forgive me for being rude to mother. My mind is in panic about the strange things that happened to me last night. I can and number 39's recover yet because I and number 39's am too surprised and scared." She then recounted clearly that when she and her husband had just gone to bed, the bed was lifted up and brought into a dirty and dark room. There she was alone, her husband disappeared to nowhere, then a young man came and said a few words to her, but because she was scared she could and #39's hear anything. He lay beside her, taking the husband and number 39's place after placing a sword between her and him. When she woke up in the morning, her husband was returned and the bed was brought back to its original place in a short while. "Those things had just finished," she added, when the royal father entered the room. "I was so sad that I didn't and #39's have the strength to say a word to him. Therefore I am sure you will be angry at the way I received the honor you bestowed upon me, and I hope you will forgive me when you learn of my sad adventure and my present condition." The Queen calmly listened to what the princess told her, but she did not want to believe it. She said, "Daughter, you were right not to say that to your father. Don and number 39's say anything to anyone, people will think you and number 39's crazy when they hear you say that." "Dear mother," the princess said again, "I assure you that I am very alert. The mother can ask more questions about her husband and children. He will say the same. I will ask, and when he tells the same story as you, I can believe it. Now wake up, Don and number 39. Think about that anymore. Do not be troubled because that image during the festival held on the occasion of your marriage is beautiful and will continue for many days in the palace and throughout the kingdom. Don and number 39. You hear the sound of trumpets and drums resounding? Those scenes will bring you joy, making you forget the nonsense you just told me. The queen called her maid to help the princess up, and when she saw her going to bathe, she went to the king and number 39's room. She said the princess had some vain thoughts in her mind, but it was okay. She called the prime minister and number 39's son to know a little about what the princess had said, but the young man felt extremely honored to be friends with the royal family, so he kept it a secret. The queen asked, "My son-in-law, are you as confident about that situation as your wife?" "Dear mother," the prime minister and number 39's son said, "allow me to dare to ask. What do you want to know about that?" And number 39's enough, the queen said again. "I Don and number 39's want to know any more. You are wiser than the princess." The fun continued all day long in the palace. The queen did not leave the princess alone, always creating fun events for her to participate in. However, she was so affected by what happened that night that she always thought about it. The prime minister and number 39's son was equally concerned about the bad night he had to spend, but his ambition kept him hidden and people saw him as a very happy husband. Aladdin was well aware of what was going on in the palace, believing that the newlyweds would continue to sleep together even though the previous night and number 39's adventure was over. Not wanting to let them rest, so as soon as it was late at night, Aladdin asked for a lamp to help. The genie appeared, giving orders like before. Aladdin said, "The vizier and number 39's son and Princess Badroulbadour are sleeping together again tonight. I went there and when they went to bed, I brought the whole bed here like yesterday." The genie performed as faithfully and accurately as the day before. The vizier spent the night just as cold and miserable as the previous night, and the princess was humiliated again with Aladdin lying next to her, the sword between them. Following the master and number 39's orders, the genie returned the next morning, placed the husband next to his wife, lifted the bed and the newlywed couple and brought it back to the palace to take its place. The king, after the princess and number 39's reception the previous day, was anxious to know if she was still the same after the second night, and came to her room early in the morning. The prime minister and number 39's son, more embarrassed and humiliated than the night before, as soon as he heard the king and number 39's arrival, he quickly got up and ran into the closet. The king came to the princess and number 39's bed to greet and caress her like the first day. "Now, daughter? Is this morning as difficult as yesterday? How did you spend the night?" The princess remained silent and the king noticed that her mind seemed more shaken and depressed. "I and number 39's am sure something strange has happened to you." Annoyed by her concealment, he took the sword and angrily said, "Daughter, either you say you have hidden something from me or I will cut off your head immediately." The princess saw the unsheathed sword and the threatening voice of her father, so she panicked and cried out, "Dear noble father, please forgive me for offending you. I hope for your kindness and salvation." An amount of sympathy replaced anger as I honestly recounted the sad and pitiful condition in which I suffered from fever last night and the night before. The opening words soothed the king. The princess faithfully recounted what happened during the 2 bad nights, in such a touching way that the king felt pain because his love and affection for his daughter was so great. Big. She ended with the following words: "If your majesty has any doubts about what I have told you, please ask the husband your majesty gave me. I and number 39 am sure you will verify the truth." The king was very upset because he had caused such a strange adventure for the princess. He said, "Daughter, you were wrong because yesterday you did not explain to me clearly that strange thing that I was so concerned about. I did not marry you with the intention of making you miserable, but to be happy and satisfied, so that you can enjoy the happiness you deserve and can hope for a husband who seems suitable to you. Please erase the bad thoughts about what I just told you. I will arrange things so that you will not have to go through nights as difficult to endure as the previous ones." Returning to the king and number 39's palace, he immediately called the prime minister to ask, "Have you met your son? Did he say anything to you?" Seeing that the prime minister replied that he had not seen her, the king told him the story the princess had just told. Then the king concluded, "I and number 39 am sure my daughter told the truth, but I want your son to confirm further. Khan, go back and ask him how things are going." The prime minister immediately went to see his son, told him what the king had just said and told him to tell the truth and not hide it. The son replied, "Father, I am not hiding anything." What the princess told the king was true, but she still did not know how badly her child was treated. "Just 2 days after the wedding, I had to go through 2 nights of unimaginable evil. I Don and number 39 have enough words to describe how miserable I was in the bed without anyone lifting me up and flying from one place to another without knowing it. How? Father, you see how terrible it is that you were only allowed to stand in a shirt for 2 nights in a narrow corner of the house, unable to move from the place I placed you, helpless in an invisible bondage. There is no need to tell you in detail the pain I have endured. Although I love, respect, and thank you very much, my wife and princess, I honestly confess to you, I am honored and proud. Because I have truly married the king and number 39's son, but I want to die rather than live long in this noble relationship but have to accept cruel treatment like I have endured. I and number 39 am sure the princess also has the same ideas as me. She will happily accept the separation because we are both too tired. Therefore, Father, I beg you, with the love that you want to create happiness for me, please ask the king to annul this marriage." No matter how great the prime minister and number 39's ambition was for his son to be the king and number 39's son-in-law, seeing his son so determined to break up with the princess, he did not see the point in advising him to endure a few more days. He left his son behind, and went to report to the king, confessing that it was true after hearing his son and number 39's explanation. Without waiting for the king to tell him to annul the marriage, he clearly saw that the king was ready. He asked the king for permission to let his son leave the palace and go home, arguing that he should not let the princess suffer that terrible punishment any longer. The prime minister received the king and number 39's immediate approval. Then the king ordered an end to the amusements in the palace, the city, and the country, and soon the public amusements ended. That sudden and unexpected change gave rise to different discussions. People asked each other why there were such contradictory orders if they did not see the Prime Minister and his son sadly leaving the palace. Only Aladdin understood that secret. He was extremely happy about the success of the genie. Thus, knowing that his rival had left the palace, the marriage was completely annulled. He no longer needed to rub the lamp and ask the gods to intervene. What is special is that both the king and the vizier have forgotten Aladdin and his mother and number 39's request, without the slightest idea of what role he could have played in the miracle that forced the princess and number 39's marriage. Cancel. He waited for the 3 months the king had promised for the wedding between the princess and him. He calculated each day carefully, and when that time limit expired, the next day he asked his mother to go to the palace to remind the king of his promise. Aladdin and number 39's mother entered the palace as I told her to, and stood at the entrance and exit of the courtroom as before. As soon as the king saw her, he immediately recognized her and at the same time remembered her request and the time he delayed. At that time, the Prime Minister was reporting to the king about something. The king interrupted and said, "Prime Minister, I saw that a woman a few months ago gave me a beautiful gift. Bring her here, I and number 39. Listen to your words later." The Prime Minister looked out the door and saw Aladdin and number 39's mother. He immediately called the servant, pointed at her, and ordered him to be brought in. Aladdin and number 39's mother walked to the foot of the throne and knelt down according to procedure. When she stood up, the king asked her what she requested. "Your Majesty, I once again request an audience with you so that in the name of my son Aladdin, I dare to present you. 3 months have expired. You postpone my request for the honor of offering up, please remember." The king promised to answer this kind woman in 3 months, but he thought that he would never have to hear about such an uneven marriage for his daughter. They must be very poor because Aladdin and number 39's mother wore ordinary clothes. However, the fact that the king had to keep his promise made him very confused, not knowing how to answer. The king immediately consulted the Prime Minister and expressed that he did not want to marry the princess to an unknown person who he thought had no assets. The Prime Minister did not hesitate to explain what he thought. "En quote, Your Majesty, en quote," he said, "en quote. I see that there is a certain tactful way of avoiding such an incompatible marriage, without Aladdin being able to complain. En quote, Your Majesty, please ask for a bride price to propose to the princess that is so large that he never thought of it before committing to it, so that no matter how rich his fortune is, he cannot reach it. This is the way to make him give up such a bold ambition." The king listened to the Prime Minister and number 39's advice, turned to Aladdin and number 39's mother, and after a moment of thinking he said, "Kings must keep their promises. I am willing to keep my word, allowing your son to happily marry with my daughter. But I cannot marry the princess without knowing whether everything will be favorable for the princess. Go back and tell your son that I will fulfill my promise when he brings me 40 large pots of gold full of the kind you gave me was brought by as many black slaves, with 40 tall, young and beautiful white slaves leading the way, all beautifully dressed. Those are the conditions I am willing to marry the princess. Go home, I and number 39 am waiting for you to give me his answer." Aladdin and number 39 mother knelt down before the throne again and withdrew. On the way, she herself also laughed about her son and number 39's crazy imagination. And quote, "In fact, where did he find so many pots of gold and so much colored glass that they were full? Did he intend to return to the closed cellar to pick fruits from the tree? And where did he find those? Slave as the king demands? That and number 39's a far-fetched wish. I think he won and number 39's be satisfied with my mission as a messenger." And quote, returning home, her mind was full of thoughts. Aladdin had nothing left to hope for. She said, "Son, I advise you not to think about marrying Princess Barolbaudour anymore. The king received me very kindly and I think he favors you, but the Prime Minister, if I and number 39's am not mistaken, has changed his mind. Feelings. You can guess like me when you hear me tell it. After telling the king that the 3 months had expired and on my behalf, I reminded the king of the promise, I noticed that he only answered me after giving privately with the Prime Minister." Aladdin and number 39's mother told her son exactly what the king had told her and the conditions needed for the king to accept the marriage between the princess and him. Finally she said, "My son, the king waiting for you to answer but we…" She continued smiling, "You will wait a long time. Not as long as you thought, mother," Aladdin replied. "And the king was wrong to think of raising such excessive demands. Do you think that I do not dare to think about Princess Badroulbaudour anymore? I and number 39's am waiting for more difficult requests or you will ask for even more expensive marriage offerings. Now I am satisfied because what the king asks is less than what I can do to marry the princess. While I go looking for things to present to the king, Mom, find something for us to have dinner and just let me figure it out." When his mother went out to buy food, Aladdin held the lamp and rubbed it vigorously. The genie immediately appeared, saying he was ready to wait for orders. Aladdin said, "The king has given me permission to marry his daughter, but first he requires 40 golden pots filled with fruit from the trees in my garden for lamps." Those pots of gold were brought by as many black slaves, preceded by 40 white slaves, young, beautiful, tall and elegantly dressed. The genie brought me that gift early so I could bring it to the palace before the king stopped holding court. The genie obeyed and disappeared. A moment later the genie returned with 40 black slaves, each carrying a very heavy golden basin filled with pearls, diamonds, rubies, and sapphires, the beauty and size of which were chosen far better than before. "Give to the king. Each pot is covered with a silver cloth with golden flowers." All the slaves were both black and white, with pots of gold standing in almost the entire house, which was an ordinary house with a small yard in front and a garden belonging to Aladdin and number 39's family in the back. The genie asked Aladdin if he was satisfied and gave any further orders. Aladdin replied that he didn't and #39's need anything else, so he immediately disappeared. Aladdin and number 39's mother came home from the market and was surprised to see so many people and so much wealth. When she had arranged the food to bring home, she was about to take off her veil when her son stopped her. He said, "Mom, there is no more time. Before the king ends the audience, you must return to the palace and lead a group of people to offer gifts and offerings to the princess that the king requires so that he can see the wedding." My enthusiasm and sincerity wish to have the honor of making friends through this prompt and complete response." Without waiting for his mother to answer, Aladdin opened the door to let the group of slaves out one after another, with a white slave walking in front of a black slave carrying a golden pot on his head. When his mother left after the last black slave, he closed the door and sat quietly in his room, hoping that with the gift the king demanded, the king would finally accept him as his son-in-law. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.